97.3 Citi FM. Relevant radio, always.
Oh, hi! My name is Kuda, and you're watching Citi Scape on Citi TV. So today on Citi Scape, we're talking about grudges, holding grudges. How far is too far? And I'm here with the one and only
Apiokor, as usual.
The one person I let do her own intros every time. She does them the best. What is your take on grudges? What do you think about grudges in general first?
I think that as human beings, you're bound to hold a grudge or two or three or some at some point. It's only human. But I do think that there are limits as to how far you can take a grudge and how long, perhaps you should hold a grudge.
I'm going to put my hands up and say I hold a grudge. Your girl can hold a grudge. I can hold it not like for a day, for 2 days, for a week, for 5. I can hold a grudge. I cannot help it. But I will, of course, later on explain how far my grudge goes. Do you hold a grudge?
Oh, definitely. I've held several grudges, but I won't hold it for too long, and I tend to be a bit more diplomatic about it. But I'm sure as the conversation goes on, that will,
Which is one thing I was about to say. You are the most diplomatic person I know. I do not have the ability to do that. So, what type of situation have you held a grudge?
In several. There are relationships, they're with your parents, they're with your siblings, and every single time, in every situation, it's been different as to how long the grudge lasted and then how I handled it. And even in dealing with the people while I was holding the grudge, differed depending on whom I was dealing with.
Okay, so let's take, I'm sure you have a grudge that's gone too far before.
Oh, definitely.
So let's take that grudge, for example, and just explain that sort of scenario, what happened, and if you let it go today, I don't know if you have, but if you have, how you got to that place.
I mean, it was a bad breakup. Let's say a bad walk away on his part. He decided to walk away, and he didn't do it, in my opinion, in a very nice way. So I held a grudge. I felt I had been treated unfairly. And this is the era of social media. Even though this was some years back, social media still existed. So I'd go on Facebook and, look at his pictures and just sort of hope that things are not going as well as they should have been. But that was really for the first week or so. After I finished licking my wounds, I healed a bit and then just sort of let it go and move on with my own life.
But had he tried to sort of approach you, talk to you, or make amends in any way?
Much later. Much later, and I'm talking years later, after I'd moved on, And of course, this is the point where I felt like, well, I've moved on with my life. I don't mind having you as a friend, but yeah, that's as far as it's going to go.
I wish I could I wish I could do that. The sort of person that I am is when I hold a grudge, right? You could do something to well, first of all, I mean, we're human beings, right?
Definitely.
If you take my favorite dress, I'm gonna hold a grudge. You know what I mean? If you take my dog, I'm gonna hold a grudge. My dogs are my babies. But with me, I hold a grudge to the point where it's not necessarily that I don't like you or I wish you bad or anything of that sort. I'm just the sort of person that I hold my grudge and then I put you at arm's length. I sort of don't want that connection anymore.
So you sort of cut the person off.
Basically, I just don't want you in my life, period. Because I feel as though if you could do something to me that results in me holding a grudge against you, then maybe this friendship, relationship, whatever it is, isn't really worth it, if that makes sense.
Right.
But I will say I'm the sort of person as well that if you come to me and say, look, Kuda, I did this and this and this to you, and I've realized that I'm wrong, therefore I apologize. That I will completely take and I will let it go, but still, you're not going to be my best buddy. We're not going to walk around, going shopping and stuff. No, but I will still sort of forgive. And I don't know if I should say forgive. Is that forgiveness? When you still sort of in the back of your mind think, I'm watching. I'm watching you.
I don't see why not. They say forgive and forget. I think you never really forget, but you can come to terms, with a situation where at a point you're not angry anymore. There's no bitterness, like you're saying. You cut the person off, and you can sort of move on. But because you're human, and because you don't want to experience that kind of hurt again, and really nobody wants to feel bitter. It's not a good feeling.
Absolutely
And you don't want people in your life who put you in a position where you feel bitterness. So you sort of just forgive and move along. And I think that's your way of dealing with it. And I think it's a healthy way. There are other times where somebody would hold a grudge for years, you know, and they're praying that the person has a car accident. They're praying that the person doesn't get a new job. They're praying that the person's marriage doesn't work out. That, I think, is very unhealthy.
No, but then, you know, there's this saying where they say, if you hold a grudge, you're sort of allowing the person to live in your space, in your mind, rent-free.
I agree, because a lot of the time, and you'd bear me witness, these people don't even know that you're holding a grudge against them.
Absolutely
because
not.
you haven't had a conversation. Especially when, I mean, you mentioned a situation earlier where the person has done something and acts like they don't know what's going on and still comes to you and tries to be normal, you know. If you keep thinking about what the person has done and you're going to bed, the person is on your mind. You're eating breakfast, the person is on your mind. You're working, the person is on your mind. Then, of course, you're giving them free rent, and it is an issue. But then again, if you are able to, and like I said, it's healthy for a period. First week, first month, but you need to think about the person to sort of assess the situation and come to terms with it.
Sometimes, aren't they those situations where, for example, let's talk money. I lend you money, for example, and you tell me I'll give it back to you by the 31st. You know, the 31st comes, the 1st, the 2nd, and the next month's done. You haven't given me the money. You haven't mentioned anything about it to me. And then I see you on Instagram, on Facebook, taking pictures like, oh, I got me a new bag. I got me some new shoes. That sort of thing. I feel like in those cases, that other person should sort of have common sense to realize that, you know, I owe this person. And therefore, so I'm sort of justified in holding a grudge.
Yes, but then there are also those people who always need to be prompted. There are some people who take your generosity for granted. There are always those people, and I've learned that. There are people who think, okay, she has money, so the fact that she's not asking me means she doesn't even need it immediately. And then it comes to, oh, hopefully she forget that I owe her, you know. So why don't
forgetting.
Why don't you?
I am not forgetting.
Better give me my money.
Give me
Why
my
don't
money.
you initiate that conversation, you know? And there are some people who genuinely do forget. They're going through so much, I mean, but then again, those people are not shopping and putting pictures on Instagram. They're usually dealing with the serious issues that they have, you know, behind the scenes of their lives. But I do think that we also need to sort of groom ourselves and develop the maturity where when we have a problem with somebody, we can approach the situation and talk to the person. But again, like I said, holding a grudge sometimes allows you that room to brood and heal, so that you can now move to the phase of, I mean, let's talk about forgiveness, for example, where you say, okay, this person did this. I'm just not going to let that situation happen again. I'm not going to let my guard down next time. She's still my friend, he's still my friend, but this is how he or she is. So I'm not going to allow things to happen in a way that he or she can hurt me in that way again. And then you forgive and you move on, but you're watching your back. And I don't think there's anything wrong with watching your back.
Absolutely. And with that, we've come to the end of this subject. Do you guys hold grudges? I'm going to be honest. If you take my dog, if you take my watch, if you take my bag, I'm going to hold a grudge. I am, hands down, I'm going to hold a grudge. So how do you guys deal with grudges? And do you hold grudges at all? Do you feel justified? Hope to see you guys next time. Bye!